This morning, we are learning that 4.4 million Americans filed for unemployment last week, raising the number of jobless claims to more than 26 million. And the numbers are also staggering here in Southern California, or California in general. People have filed for unemployment in just the past month. Many of you have so many questions during this difficult time, so you are in luck. We have financial expert Brian Levy here to help answer some of your questions. Again, these are your questions. Brian, good morning to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer some of these questions. Let's get right to the first one. If I work part-time, will I get the additional $600 a week?
So that's a great question, and it depends. You have to report your earnings, and when you look at, you have to have an active unemployment claim from March 29th through July 31st. So, but as long as you qualify for $1 out of the $450 we traditionally receive each week for unemployment, you get that additional flat $600 a week for essentially 4 months.
Okay. And then what about this? If I was on unemployment and it expired in March, am I still eligible for the unemployment now? So this is someone who is already not employed.
Yeah, great question. So typically unemployment is for 26 weeks, roughly 6 months. And what happens is after that time, it sort of expires. The COVID-19 crisis that came out and extended that an additional 13 weeks. So you had to have an active claim, the claim had to end after March 29th. And assuming your unemployment ends from March 29th through the end of this year, they will extend it an additional 13 weeks.
And this one is a question I hear all the time, people debating. I make more money on unemployment. Should I resign and collect unemployment?
So that's a good one as well. You know, it's very tempting. In March, California paid out over $400 million in unemployment benefits. So it's very tempting in that regard. But you want to make sure you can actually qualify. You don't necessarily want to quote unquote quit. And the EDD website is a great resource, edd.ca.gov. And if you have an underlying health condition that puts you more at risk for COVID-19, you could very well qualify for unemployment. And we always recommend applying and let the EDD come back and tell you whether you qualify or not.
What have you heard from people, because you're out and about and talking to people all the time? What is one question some of our viewers didn't ask that you think it's they have an answer to?
Well, I think the big one is overall is where your personal need is at. You know, I talk to clients all the time that maybe they're retired and they don't need the stimulus check they received or the unemployment benefit. So you got to look at your personal situation and figure out, does it make sense to, number one, go on unemployment, continue to working, maybe just reduce hours. But a great resource, like I mentioned before, is the EDD website, because all these rules are new with the COVID-19. In the past, you had to go out and try and look for work during the time that you were unemployed. Now you don't have to.
You know, one other thing that I often hear people say is maybe this will make people not go into retirement. Maybe this will force them to continue working, or even vice versa.
Yeah, you know, one of the things we advocate for our clients, we focus on retirement planning, is having a plan, not just a portfolio of stocks. And when you go into a situation like this where you need to rely upon your money that you have saved up in your 401k, it's a challenging time for all of us and a scary time. But if you have a plan, not only in the good times, but in the bad times, you can fall back on it.
Brian, thank you so much for being with us this morning. That was really helpful, and I love getting those viewer questions answered. So if you have questions, send them our way, and we'll do our very best. Take care, Brian.
Thanks for having me.